What can I help you with?
Hey, yeah, I graduated from a boot camp a couple of months ago, and I've been kind of trying a bit of everything in my job search strategy. I've been definitely working on projects. I tried that for a couple of weeks, focusing on that. Then I said, well, a lot of these jobs ask like data structure and algorithms questions, so I need to do that. So I focused on that for a couple of weeks, spent like, the majority of my hours per day doing that. I heard, maybe doing some free work or for like nonprofits will like help my resume out. And I've been doing that a little bit. Just like volunteer work, for web development specifically. And, none of it's really like clicking or like, working. I've been networking a lot too, I guess. Some weeks more than others. I just focus on it, see some returns, but nothing significant or like getting me closer that I feel to getting like a job. So I was kind of wondering your advice on, what should my day-to-day really look like and what should I really be focusing on in my job search?
Yeah. So, I can already tell you, it sounds like you're jumping around. So your strategy could definitely improve. So we'll start from the beginning. Are you applying for jobs full time, or do you have a job on the side?
I'm applying for jobs full time. Yep.
Awesome. Okay. So you graduated a coding boot camp. I don't know if you said the date. When did you graduate?
It was November. I graduated around the end of November.
Okay. You said you worked on projects for 2 weeks.
Yeah. So like I was focusing like after the boot camp, kind of continuing to iterate upon what I was doing. Like features that I was excited on.
Okay. So features of existing projects.
Yeah. Right.
Gotcha. Okay. The projects that you were building upon, were they templated projects? Did they tell you to build this type of project and you built it? Or did they just say, hey, go ahead and build your personal project and we'll be here to help?
So their instruction was specifically build a project that solves an actual problem in your life or someone that you know. And so I actually got my idea rejected a few times. That was like, it was something that I was kind of interested in, but it was just like, nothing that like that. So I wanted to make like a game, and they said, well, try and like think deeper than that, maybe in your life. And so, yeah, I'd like to think that it's more than just a templated project because I didn't work off a tutorial or anything like that. It's, it was me basically just going through docs of libraries I didn't know that I wanted to use and using it for the project.
Okay. It's a cool strategy. I'm glad your coding bootcamp did that. So an important thing when you come out of a coding bootcamp is to do project work to reinforce everything that you just learned. Sounds like you started that for 2 weeks and then you stopped. So your day-to-day honestly should look like this. Well, actually, no, I have another question before I say that. Do you feel like your coding bootcamp was better focused on front end or back end? Do you think it prepared you more for front end or back end positions?
I would say it prepared more for front end, but I can't really say where my skill level is in each. Okay. Just because I've never had a position, so it's hard to tell like how close I am or how far I am.
Makes
where
sense.
I need to be.
What types of positions are you applying to?
Front end developers, junior software engineers, some back end as well, some graduate roles as well.
What do you mean graduate roles?
Just like companies that generally hire like college graduates out of college, essentially, and
okay,
train them up, I guess.
Makes sense. All right, so your day to day, it's going to be a balance. So essentially, I'll just give you kind of a templated strategy that I think is going to work pretty well for you. It's a horrible idea just to do a burst of projects and then just stop. It reeks of you just doing the bare minimum possible to try to get a job, and then you're trying a different strategy to get that job. But like that story alone, like it makes me wonder, like, do you even enjoy coding? If you're just going to stop 2 weeks later and you're fine with that, do you even enjoy coding, honestly? And so I'm not saying you don't, but it can come off like that. So, they might look at GitHub. Oh, this person, Dillon, hasn't made commits in like 2 months. What are they doing? So a good strategy is to do project work. It should take up majority of your day. Like, you just graduated a coding bootcamp, you're recent, you need to keep those skills fresh. Continue expanding with features. I love that. And I would argue, like, at this point, probably like more depth with a project is better than a variety of projects. Unless you want to explore a new technology, you're just like, you know what, I want to solve a different problem. I'm going to spend a couple weeks on it, see how it works. That's fine. But I think you need to really get curious about coding and enjoy it and show that you enjoy it. Continue that project work. It takes up majority of your day. You're going to spend a little bit of time with data structures and algorithms each day. That's what I would do. 1 or 2 problems. Or like, if you're learning a new data structure, maybe you spend just a tiny bit of time learning and then practicing it, and then spend a few days doing that, right? And you just spread it out over multiple days if you need to, if it's going to take a few hours. But majority of your time is project work, a little bit of data structures and algorithms, and then the other chunk is going to be a bit of networking, applying for jobs. So if you're doing it full time, I think it's definitely a solid practice to apply for maybe up to 15 positions per week. How many jobs have you been applying to per week?
That's about the number I aim for. Like,
perfect.
With writing like a cover letter and everything, and trying to increase the chances and such like that.
How long is your cover letter?
I followed your advice, so I just typically write about 2 paragraphs.
Do you feel like the paragraphs like really speak to you wanting to work at the company and you understanding what the company's trying to do?
I think it does, because within the last, I'd say, month and a half, I've really tried to spend a lot of time on each individual company. So I spend maybe half an hour working on the cover letter and just researching the company, seeing what they're about. Okay. So I think it does, but I haven't been able to talk to, a manager that's seen my application and has read the cover letter,
Yeah, makes sense. Did you watch my resume live stream?
Yeah.
Okay, so you have an idea of like what to focus on. It's going to focus on mainly your personal projects, probably your volunteer project as well for the nonprofit, right?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So how many jobs have you applied to so far?
I haven't kept track of all of them. I've been applying for about, seriously, for about a month and a half to 2 months, maybe about 100 positions, that I didn't just click quick apply. Gotcha.
Track those. Definitely track those. You're going to start seeing patterns over time. And so, like I said, it's really beneficial to think about how you can blend your old industry experience into what you're doing now. For example, if you were in retail, there are going to be developer positions in retail that where like you kind of understand the problems of the customers, and you understand, and maybe like you've like you're also a user. Like if you absolutely love Kohl's, for example, you buy all of your clothes from Kohl's, there's no reason why you shouldn't apply for a developer position at Kohl's. I think having that sort of interest in what the company is producing, even if it's like something it's not superficial, it's clothes, you need clothes, but you using the product and understanding the product and understanding like what products you like, what products you don't. And if you worked at Kohl's, for example, like you kind of understand how customers might behave and which sections they really prioritize, and have you helped them? So using any sort of like personal experience you have with that product, et cetera, or that industry experience that you have, and apply for developer positions for that, that's really where your time is going to be very efficient. And that's where the cover letter really shines as well. And the company research, it's when you pair all of that, now your job search becomes much more effective. You're probably going to start getting callbacks with that. But specifically like with your day-to-day, it should be like, if we had to do like an 8-hour day with 1 hour lunch, it's going to be 4 hours of project work. I'm going to butcher this. 4 hours of project work. I would do like an hour of data structures and algorithms and like an hour of networking and an hour of lunch. And so you could spread that out. That can change, that variety can change a little bit throughout the week, but ultimately, you're going to be spending a little bit of time with networking as well. And so maybe one day you go to Meetup. And we'll talk more about that in a second, but maybe one day you go to Meetup, one day or 2 days you go through a hackathon for the next week or something like that, right? And that's taking a good 4 or 5 hours and you're just quickly hashing out a project, but that can fill your whole week of networking. I would argue maybe even like you can dump the project work a little bit to be able to fit an application in 1 or 2 a day, but a lot like you want that, what I'm trying to emphasize, you want that balance. And I think it's going to you just keep up with the project work going forward. And in terms of like networking, I'm just like going off on a rant. So if you have any questions, save them afterwards. So with networking specifically, a lot of people, they'll go through networking, they hear networking is king, etc. But like they kind of go to a meetup and they don't really initiate any conversations and they don't really create any connections and they don't even connect. Like LinkedIn's going to be like the most powerful platform for you. They're not creating connections on LinkedIn. They're not engaging with people, right? Like you go through a bunch of, like you might post about your projects, talk about what you learned, an interesting article that you found, or you engage and you comment on other people's posts where that will get reach. People will see your comments if you provided value with your comment. Sometimes people will send connection requests. That happens to a lot of people. Okay, so I kind of just went off on a rant. I wanted to lay that out real quick in terms of like a very basic templated job search strategy that we can kind of expand on. Do you feel like do you feel like you could shape your job search strategy into something like that? Like, is your current strategy like way different? After hearing that, like, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'd say my like allocation's definitely different. Especially for projects, I don't like, I guess I don't force it. I feel like inspired sometimes. And then it's like, I really have a great idea I want to implement. But without like direction, it's kind of hard for me to push on in one direction that I don't really care about. And like you said, I think I agree that like building up one project is probably more impressive than like a bunch of smaller, not as consequential projects that are basically tutorial projects. And I guess that's kind of what I've been struggling with doing the project work specifically. Is just like I had an idea, I built it, and now I'm like, well, I don't have a great idea right now of where to go.
How do you come up with a great idea?
I don't know. So like my last one, just life circumstances, and it just came to me like that. But I guess I could spend more time brainstorming, possibly.
You should. I think leaning on that inspiration is going to be a huge flaw in your job search strategy. And so it sounds like you've watched my channel a little bit, so I'll just quickly reiterate. But if you want to come up with a project idea, again, think of your old industry. Think of like web-based software you could have built for yourself a while back. You don't need to be inspired. Quite frankly, like that's kicking you in the butt right now. You kind of have an empty graph on your GitHub. You're not keeping up with your skills. They're still fresh from a coding boot camp. Fuck your inspiration, frankly. Right. And so, but you need some sort of strategy like, okay, I'm not inspired, but Don has told me I need to build these projects. Right. So what do I do? So you're probably going to do some project work that you're not super inspired by. You don't have to be, but you can gain a little inspiration from like, okay, I want to build this idea. It doesn't sound like a super exciting idea. How do I make that exciting? Let's understand the users that actually use this problem. What are they complaining about, right? You could even like have, if creativity is a thing where you need to practice, like you haven't really developed this good strategy for brainstorming specifically, maybe you use ChatGPT to like come up with problems. Like you can even say like, I'm trying to reinforce some of these concepts. What are like 20 creative web development projects I could build that are going to reinforce this? Or even if like you have a project, but you feel like it's empty on features, you can literally talk like, hey, I'm building this project to solve this problem. What are the features would be helpful towards users? And that can help you create features. So inspiration is a very tricky thing. I think leaning on inspiration as a developer to continue growing as a software engineer, it's just not reliable. It's not. You can't. And I think you're going to find that when you do force yourself to think of problems that exist and tools that you want to build to solve those problems, it trains your brain to kind of like, it just trains your brain to come up with these ideas that you're a little bit more confident in pursuing. And I get this feeling that you've leaned on your inspiration for too long and you need to train your brain to just be a problem solver. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. I think, not to argue against you, I think I agree with you. It's harder to self-discipline yourself to solve these problems that you don't care about and you're also not getting paid to care about. Or like no one else is kind of telling you to do it. But yeah, I agree. It's kind of like something that I have to work on with that.
Yeah. And so what's an area in your life where you feel like you are super self-disciplined with?
I guess exercise right now.
Why?
Probably the only one. I just always do it every other day. Doesn't really matter what time. If it's like I've been coding for a while and I forgot to do it, I'll do it at 7:00 in the evening. I usually like to do it in the morning, but sometimes that doesn't happen. But I just always go to workout anyway.
So that's funny. I literally asked you why you do it, and you're just like, I just do it. So you recognize there's a benefit to it, and you just do it. How do you take that and apply it to coding?
I mean, I guess it would be the same thing of just doing it. I just have to kind of convince myself that it's the same.
How would it be the same? And same in what way?
The same in that there's some benefit to doing it that I can't immediately grasp or see. That's what that means to me.
You don't see a benefit. Okay, so I mean, it sounds like you kind of really understand the benefit. So here's what I think it is. You understand the benefits of exercise. Like there's a lot of data to support it. And you probably like, if you've gotten into any sort of a rhythm, it's probably made you feel better too. That's one of the first things people usually notice, or even feel better about yourself. I think you're kind of like, I think you're going through the motions of like, okay, I'm supposed to do this with coding to eventually get a job. And all you keep thinking about is getting a job. But I'm not getting a job. I'm not getting a call back. So it's easy to let that destroy your confidence in what you're doing. It's easy to let that not allow you to just do it, to build that self-discipline. It's very easy to get discouraged by that. And I think your job search, like your strategy and how you're allocating your time is hurting you. And I think fixing that, you might start seeing results. I'm not going to say it's right away. And we could talk about like, how much time do we have? We have more time. We could talk about the networking portion of it. But I feel like, I mean, like, yeah, this isn't a long enough conversation to like really dig into like psychology and why you like the distinction between you just doing the exercise and you just doing coding. But I do think that you have to recognize that it's probably going to take longer than you think to get a position. It doesn't necessarily mean you're doing a lot of horrible things. There's just a horrible job market right now as well. I can tell you for certain that you doing these bursts of projects and then really focus on data structure and algorithms, you leaning on your mood of the day, your inspiration, or whatever you think is going to work, and then just like going full force with it, that's going to make you take way longer to get a job. I can tell you that right now. And so bringing that balance in and kind of trusting the process, like, okay, after 3 months, I'm probably going to be in a better position, right? I'm probably going to get some calls back, etc. Like that, we can go over your entire job search strategy for hours, but I think just getting your time allocation, getting that balance and being consistent with it, I think you can turn it into, and trust that I'm telling you, like, this is what's most effective for people. I think you can turn that into, I just got to do it, right? I've been doing it for weeks. I've been doing it for like a month or two. I just got to do it. Do your best to try to turn that into a practice where you just do it, regardless of how you feel, because I think initially, until you like really establish a pattern of habits, you're going to feel super discouraged. You're not going to be as self-disciplined with it. So if you can figure out how to take you just doing that exercise to you just doing the coding, and hopefully this can give you just a little bit more confidence that this is actually an effective strategy, I think you're going to start seeing results eventually. What are your thoughts on that?
I have hope that it's true. I obviously can't say whether it will or not happen, but I think I do have hope that it's that's what's going to happen. Just like trusting the process will eventually lead to some breakthroughs.
You know what I think would benefit you? I don't know your financial situation. I don't think I've offered, like, it doesn't even have to be with me. I think you need, honestly, some like longer mentorship sessions. I think you need someone to literally like rip apart your projects. I think you need someone to like give you, okay, this is actually like an effect. I love that you're being consistent with this convention, etc. These features are really powerful. You're focused on authentication. Okay, are you applying to companies where their apps are going to utilize that? Like, I think having a professional software engineer like rip apart your projects and kind of compare that, even like if you can get mentorship with a hiring manager or just anyone that mentors developers, like senior developer, that's going to be beneficial. You pair it with someone that like literally goes to your resume. Is your resume actually effective, right? You want confidence that your resume speaks to your skills effectively. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know. You've watched like one of my videos. I have no idea what your resume actually looks like. Oftentimes, like people hear my videos, oh, I got to talk about my personal projects. I put a big chunk of it, and it's literally them just saying, this is what my project does. These are the skills. And then this is a feature that utilizes this specific skill. It's like, it's a very weak value proposition of like when a hiring manager sees that, like it doesn't, they're not really selling their projects at like they're not building real products that can be transferred, like have those transferable features into a business application, or they're just not selling it very well. They're underselling their project. Because I always talk about your project like a product. And the only way you can do that is by solving a real user problem, which you've done, right? But maybe you're ineffectively selling that. But then it's like, then you need someone to like go over, okay, your cover letters. Tell me the research you did with this company. Let me look at the exact cover letter. What does that say? Does it like really speak to the company values? And what was your strategy afterwards? You said you spent a half an hour doing company research. You do a cover letter, you submit your resume and cover letter. And then who did you reach out to? What did you say specifically? I think having someone like really dig into exactly what your job search strategy is and saying, this is effective, this is not effective, that might give you the confidence. Because I feel like you're kind of just discouraged because you've spent, not really that much time, honestly. But maybe that would give you just a little bit more confidence. You spent a little time and you feel like you're not getting results. You haven't even monitored like what jobs you're applying to. It doesn't sound like you have a spreadsheet. You don't have the number. You don't have the industry. Like, how are you going to know if you're even successful with the job search process? You're not. Like, what happens when you get a call back? Does that mean success? How do you know that means success? I feel like career services should be answering a lot of these questions for you in the coding bootcamp. But maybe that's what's going to give you that burst of confidence to continue pushing forward. I'm just trying to think of ways, but it just sounds like you're not confident that the things that you're doing are worth your time and are pushing you forward effectively. And so you have to figure out, and maybe that means someone really digging into every single detail. Maybe that means giving it more time. It's hard to tell. I can't really tell you in a 25-minute conversation, but from what I've said, do you feel like having someone like dig into your details like that would help give you confidence?
Yeah, I think it would, or maybe not even, confidence. It's maybe just like, turning me in, what I could be doing wrong, maybe even, or like you said, give confidence, but depends on if I'm doing, things that are beneficial or not. But yeah, I think that would probably help.
Okay. In the near future, I can give you all this information. I can't force you to do it. Just kind of give me, if you had to give like a job search strategy over the next few months of exactly what you will do. I don't want to hear like what you should do, maybe do, like what you actually will commit to over the next few months. Like, what would that look like?
So I guess some of the most important things to me are making sure at least a little bit every day to study behavioral and technical questions. I spend like a little bit of time on that each day, not overly so right now, just enough to keep me fresh on it. I definitely want to get at least one application out per day. It just kind of makes me feel like there's some momentum happening. And then, I really would like to create more projects that I'm kind of curious about. And I am working with a nonprofit to make their website, so I need to continue doing that for them. But outside of that, I do have some technologies that I'd like to get into and definitely build with. So I'd say those, I think 5 things would really consist of most of the day. And then I've been trying to do a lot of LinkedIn networking, just because being near a hackathon, or I'm not near any meetups rather. In my area, it's like 2 hours one way to get to a meetup, and I don't think that's the most feasible when I'd have to pay to get there as well. So maybe those 6 things are kind of what would consist my everyday job search strategy, I'd say.
Would those 6 things match essentially the ratio that I gave you of time allocation?
I think I would at least try to make it closer to that, because it's not right now. But I'm giving like an ideal based off advice I've gotten and I want to implement.
Okay.
But I would like to try the strategy that you've laid out, for allocation, at least.
I think if you don't, you're going to be spinning your wheels for a while. And that's fine if you want to accept that. I think you can find curiosity in the project work, and I think you're probably just going to have to put more effort into that. Utilize ChatGPT, look up, just spend like an evening looking up a bunch of different projects and cool things, cool features you think would be really cool to build. Or if you have an app, you're just like, this would be really cool to build. I wish I could do it. You could build a simpler version of it, right? You can always expand on that. I think, I think you're just going to have to find that curiosity. But I see this, like the big deterrent is like, you're kind of just like, even the way you talk, it seems like you're just leaning on like a low motivation. I think you're just getting discouraged and down in the dumps with like, you're putting all this time into it. You're not really seeing results. And I think you need to find a way to overcome that, because it's like time investment into this with that ratio will start giving you those results. And this is only a 25-minute conversation, but I think you're going to have to find a way to overcome that. So at least like the ratio that I gave you, try that and measure, like, again, track all the jobs that you're applying to and try to get like some sort of data like this is effective, but don't just try it for 2 weeks. That's way too little time. Try it for 2 months. Push forward with that. And then you might start getting some of the results and it might kind of bring that motivation up. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope that helped. Do your best to do that plan. And I think like my final question is, do you have like any other developers that you connect with, not just like to build connections, right? But to talk with like other aspiring developers that you can, like a Discord community, anything like that?
I'm pretty relatively close working with like my cohort from my bootcamp, maybe 3 or 4 people fairly close with.
Awesome. Could you build a project with them? Would that be fun?
Yeah, actually, I think I'm going to, one of my cohort mates has a project that he's working on for his cousin that he invited me on for, so I think I'm going to help him on that. Okay.
All right, that sounds good. Well, Dillon, I appreciate you coming on. We went over a little bit. My apologies for that. But yeah, seriously, it was nice to meet you. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks so much.